Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, December 17th, and you are listening to episode 136 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. Speaking of that Support the Show tab, thank you to everyone who's out there using my Amazon link to do their holiday shopping. I love looking through what you guys are out there buying. Again, it doesn't tell me who is buying these things, but there are some very interesting things that people are buying other people for the holidays. And I love looking through and seeing what various interesting things people are buying. A lot of technology this year, a lot of toys for kids. That's my favorite part, seeing toys for kids going out there. So keep up the good work. You're in your final week, so again, at least if you're going for Christmas, Hanukkah is almost over. So yeah, get in there and do your shopping if you need to. And like I said, remember to use my Amazon link because I do really, really appreciate it. Next, what's been going on with me? I have been playing a absolute shit ton of Planetside 2. I will be completely upfront and honest here. It is 100% because there is now a weapon in the game that is my namesake or in my honor has been placed into the game itself. And I love getting messages from you guys in game. Every time somebody unlocks it, I either get a comment on one of my YouTube videos, or I get a comment in game, a tell in game, or I get a tweet sent at me, stuff like that. I love getting those messages when you guys actually earn my namesake in the game via winning an alert. So, like I said, keep that stuff up because I absolutely love it. Other than that, like I said, I have been playing Planetside 2 pretty much nonstop. A lot of infiltrator play with the NS357IA. I haven't played a ton of infiltrator, so getting around and playing as an infiltrator is kind of interesting. I'm learning how to be stealthy and when to pop out and get people. Still having issues getting that ultimate headshot on people with both shots out of the Derringer. It's the bloom on it, or the spread on it, is kind of large. It doesn't always hit. So I'm finding that 2 shots, two pulls of the trigger with it, pretty much kill everybody. Very rarely do I have to fire all 3 shots to kill somebody. My biggest issue, though, is remembering to reload after I do those 2 shots. I have found many instances where I've pulled the 2 shots off, killed somebody, run around a corner to hide because there's other people in the area, and then forgotten to reload, and then popped out and fired the 1 shot at somebody, not getting a headshot, or hitting a heavy assault who's gotten more health, not getting, and then having to reload and trying to run away and stealth myself again and get out of there. I'm failing more often than not. But there are certainly a lot of instances where I've made some amazing shot against some other person. They're lighting me up, and I get 1 shot off, and it's the perfect headshot, and they die, and it's absolutely glorious. There's a lot of adrenaline rush, exhilaration regarding it, and using the weapon that has been put in the game and named after me. I am still absolutely floored that something like that could happen, and I can do it. So clearly my goal is to auraxium this gun as soon as possible on one of my characters. The problem is that I'm playing so much, alternating so much between NC and VS that I can't settle down and focus on one of the 2 to really push my way through. And honestly, I'm not getting as many kills in game as I would like because I'm terrible with it as well. But of course, that will come as we move on into the game itself. But enough about me and my awesome weapon. What's in store for this week's show? Well, first, I do have a PC hotfix to talk about that contains a lot of things that were dropped in the PTS on the 11th and 12th and then immediately pushed live with very little testing. After that, I want to talk about Coltier and the VR training room, then focus on Valkyries in particular, and finish out this week's show with some general Daybreak Games news about the future. So strap in as we hot drop into this week's Last Jedi spoiler-free episode of the Instant Action Podcast. So first up this week, let's talk about that December 13th PC hotfix, which unfortunately didn't also come to the PS4 as far as I can tell. So specifically, if you are a Canis player, because that's the first thing I'm going to talk about, get your butt over to PS4 because you can still obliterate people to hell with the Canis over there until that gets fixed. So let's talk about what happened in the PC hotfix itself. First off, Canis, that's the Vanu submachine gun, Dooku submachine gun. It got a pretty substantial nerf this time around, and let's be honest, it deserved a nerf because with its headshot multiplier and its projectile collision size, it really was probably the best new weapon ever to land in Planetside 2, probably since the Zoe changes came on live for the Vanu Maxes. So when you have the unstable ammunition, the headshot multiplier was reduced from 2 times to 1.2 times. So huge nerf on that. The collision side was also scaled back again. Both those things had to be done to bring the Canis into line so it wasn't as much of an overpowered weapon as it was when it went live. And again, if you're playing on the PS4, the Canis still has its headshot multiplier and still has its huge projectile collision size with the unstable ammunition. So please feel free to go and abuse it there if you certainly want to. I mean, there's post after post on the PS4 Reddit of people pissed off and complaining about it because apparently that's all that most Vanu players are using over there, and obviously they should while it's still broken on that particular side. The one dev note regarding the Canis is that they're going to continue to review the state of all 3 submachine guns after these changes are live. So right now people are saying that the Gladius is the best one in game. That's the NC one. So maybe that one is going to get a nerf coming down. I don't agree with people saying the Gladius is the best thing in game. It's a hard hitter. I'll certainly agree to that, but it's nothing like the Canis was when that first went live. So maybe we'll see some additional changes to the other submachine guns, but who actually knows? And of course, use this as a learning experience for Daybreak Games, because you can rest assured that when the LMG comes out, that's the next weapon that we're going to see, probably in January, will not have such an OP factor to it like the Canis did with its unstable ammunition. I kind of expect the LMG also to have unstable ammunition, maybe across all the Dooku weapons for VS are going to have it, but we won't see it as powerful as the Canis was at launch. After that, vehicle adjustments have also come to live. First, vehicle stealth got some changes, specifically for ESFs, Liberators, and Galaxies. The defensive certification is now going to reduce the range engagement radar can detect the vehicle by 100 meters at rank 1 all the way up to 400 meters at rank 4. The Valkyrie also got its own changes. It's going to reduce the range of engagement radar. Instead of what the ESF Lib and Gal get, it's 150 all the way up to 450. And the reduction of range is intended to help promote target tracking while engaged with a target while still allowing ambush playstyles to remain effective. I'm going to talk a bit more about the Valkyrie a little bit later in the show based on a Reddit post from Shadow Insignius that I want to put some more eyes on, so I'm just going to leave this at that for now. Also for the Liberator and Galaxy, they reduced the on-fire vertical thrust penalty, so they have a better shot at landing while they are actually on fire. The Banshee on the Mosquito had its direct damage nerfed a bit. It used to be 150, now it's down to 100. And the reason for this is if you had the extended magazine Banshee, you could kill another ESF in one clip, and therefore that was the only weapon that that Mosquito pilots were using for the most part. So what this does is it changes the shots to kill against another ESF to 60 shots, up from 40 shots, which means that you have to reload at least one time when you're battling another ESF. Obviously, a no-brainer change in that, even though I think some Banshee Mosquito pilots are probably not 100% happy with that because they were happy with where the Banshee was. But let's be honest, that's a change that probably needs to be made. Next, the Dalton on the Liberator had a little bit of a damaged nerf. Used to be 1,500, now it's 1,200. They felt that it was a little too pumped up against ground vehicles. So this is a direct survivability bump for main battle tanks, for lightnings, and harassers. So it's going to take an extra shot pretty much on all main battle tanks, all lightnings. Harassers are going to stay the same unless they have composite armor on them. Next, the Sunder and Ant resistances got some changes to it. This is specifically the air-to-ground one, and this is to keep Dalton doing 4 shots to crit and 5 shots to kill, unless your Sunder has blockade armor, which is going to still stay at 5 shots to kill. It's also going to make some changes to the Zephyr and Hornet, so that instead of taking 11 and 14 to crit and kill, it's now going to be 8 to crit and 10 to kill. So certainly the Dalton's going to be doing a bit more damage against the Sunderer. Ants, it's still going to be 4 shots to kill, and Zephyr and Hornets are going to go from 9 shots to crit and 11 to kill down to 7 to crit and 8 to kill. So again, some Zephyr buffs basically against Sunderers and Ants based on the resistance type. Next, ESFs also got some resistance changes. Again, more air-to-ground changes. And it's a compensation for the damage reduction on the Liberator. And what it's going to do is move ESFs a bit further along in the burning state when they get hit once by the Dalton. Also, Zephyr shots are going to go from 4 shots to kill to 3 shots to kill. Hornets are going to go from 4 shots to kill to 3 shots to kill. So, again, a little bit easier to kill ESFs with Zephyrs and Hornets. Valkyries also got some air-to-ground resistance. So basically, they took it from minus 50 down to 0. So again, no specific additional resistance for air-to-ground. So coupling this with the reduced Dalton damage, it's going to change it from 2 shots to kill to 2 shots to crit and 3 shots to kill. So a little bit tougher for a Dalton to actually take out a Valkyrie. Zephyr shots go from 4 to kill to 5 shots to crit and 6 to kill. And Hornets go from 4 shots to kill to 5 to crit and 6 to kill as well. They also got a bit of a resistance to aircraft nose guns, and it's going to slightly lengthen the time to kill against Valkyries with nose guns alone. And this is to provide a little bit more survivability for Valkyries. Next, moving down to the ground, Lightning and main battle tanks got some adjustments. Again, everybody knows main battle tank is your Prowler, your Vanguard, and your Mag Rider. And the changes that I'm going to go over in a moment all are meant to address some of the harassers' exaggerated survivability after the Combined Arms Initiative went live, and also they're looking to give armor-piercing rounds a more standout place against other vehicles, because right now the Hesh rounds are kind of the all-rounder main cannon that everyone is using currently. So when we talk about the Lightning itself, they've reduced the minimum cone of fire. It used to be 0.5, it's now 0. And they also increased the direct damage a little bit. This is on the C-75 Viper, if I didn't say so. So what this is going to do, it's going to move Sunder and main battle tanks from 23 shots to kill down to 20. Harasser goes from 10 shots down to 9 shots. So the cone of fire adjustments also are going to max out the cone of fire while mag dumping in 3 shots instead of 2. Which should give them a little bit more accurate shots at longer ranges. So there's certainly that. Next, the AP on the Lightning. The direct damage was increased from 600 to 650. What that's going to do is move Sunder and main battle tanks from 9 down to 8 shots to kill. Harasser's not going to change. It's still going to be 4 shots to kill, but it's much more burning when it's hit by that third shot. I kind of like this one. Before the NS357 IA came out, I was doing a lot of AP lightning play, and some of the shots to kill a Sunderer, it just felt like it took forever. If you watched one of my YouTube videos on the show, I think it was probably 2 weeks ago, I featured a lot of lightning play, and in it, I just felt like I was dumping shot after shot after shot into a Sunderer to destroy it. It felt like almost 11 shots. I was hitting it on the side, and who knows what additional armor the Sunderer had on it, but it did feel like it took forever. So good to see the AP coming down a little bit in the total shots to kill. Moving on to the Python Heat. This also had its direct damage increase from 450 to 525. So this moves the Sunderer and main battle tank from 11 down to 10 shots, and the Harasser down to 5 to 4 shots to kill. So now this is the fastest time to kill of any main cannon versus Harassers. And it makes sense because I feel like fighting Harassers is kind of a medium range activity, and Heat is the medium range activity type of gun on the Lightning. So good to see that, and hopefully people will stop using Hesh in every certain situation. Next, moving on to the Vanguard with its Titan AP cannon. It got a direct damage increase up to 525, and basically Sunderers and main battle tanks are going to be 10 shots to kill. Harassers are going to be 4 shots to kill. This is also the fastest time to kill of any main cannon versus Harassers now. I'm sorry, I read the wrong one. Direct damage went to 850. It moves Sunder and main battle tanks down to 6 shots to kill on the Titan AP. I'm sorry about that. The Supernova FPC on the Mag Rider also had its direct damage increase, went from 700 to 750. It makes it the exact same as, or makes it similar to the Vanguard now. It's going to take 7 shots instead of 8 to kill Sunders and main battle tanks now with the Supernova FPC. The Supernova VPC actually had a nerf done to it, and there's a lot of complaints from the community on this one. Its blast damage went from 1050 down to 800, and the reason the devs made this change is because they were seeing far and away more infantry kills with this weapon than any other Hesh equivalent in the game, and they felt that because of maneuverability and ranges, infantry would normally be able to keep tanks at bay. They're removing the one-shot splash kill within 1 meter while still retaining the highest splash damage of any of the Mag Rider's main cannons. Again, this is just a knee-jerk reaction to the super maneuverability of the Mag Rider itself. I've seen nothing but complaints from players who tank all the time with the Mag Rider and specifically using the VPC. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of change in the other direction at some point to tweak this a little bit higher, just because it kind of removes not any reason, but a lot of the reasons to use VPC on the Mag Rider. I didn't think that it was overpowered, but honestly, I don't have access to the underlying raw data that the devs do that shows that this is the only one that people are using, but I guess we'll just have to play the wait and see game to see if there's any type of change back. I mean, if everyone stops using this and the infantry kills just absolutely disappear, I'm sure that we'll see some sort of change in the other direction. Next, the Mjolnir on the Vanguard and Harasser had its direct damage decreased from 100 to 90, and the reason for this is they're taking back some of the power that they felt was given in the November 20th update, but it still does have some increased damage over the Combined Arms Initiative launched version, which was way too low in its damage. I mean, let's be honest, everybody's talking about the Mjolnir in-game right now, and it's the only platform people are using on NC Harassers, so for them to make this change absolutely makes sense to me. Next, the Halberd. Both Harasser and main battle tank version had its indirect damage changed from 150 to 500. That is a huge buff. Also had its outer blast radius changed from 3 meters down to 2 meters. It did have its headshot multiplier removed, And the reason for all of these changes is they wanted to give the halberd back its one-hit kill for body shots against non-flak armored infantry targets with 1100 hit P or less. And in addition, keeping its one-shot capabilities against non-composite armored flash ATVs. So, good news for halberd users. This was a complaint that a lot of people had. You couldn't body shot people anymore with a perfectly timed shot from the halberd. So, good to see that brought back into the game itself. I expect to see more halberds more out on the battlefield than they were, because they completely dropped off in use as far as I'm concerned. I just don't see them anymore. So good to see potentially these coming back into the game itself. Next, we had a bunch of bugs and other miscellaneous additions. The biggest one for me was that the NS357 IA is now properly tracking weapon metal progress. This was something that I went to Rel about after I thanked him for the 9,000th time for honoring me in game. But I did say, hey, it's not tracking kills with any metal progress. It's also not showing up under the pistol directive, but I mean, that could be on purpose. I don't know. So unfortunately, where I'm sitting right now, I probably got about 100 or so kills with it that didn't count. They weren't tracked for some reason or another. So I'm out about 100 kills on at least one of my characters, which, whatever. It's not that big a deal, but I'm sure I'm not the only one that would eventually complain about that, and that's why I brought it to Rel's attention. Next, I'd love to see it added to the pistol directive, if anything, just to be able to track it to see how many kills that I have with it at any given time. So maybe if one of the devs listen to this week's show, they can try to push that through me for as well. I don't know if the showdown is even included in the pistol directive or not as well. I meant to check that before the show, but completely forgot. But that is the PC hotfix in a nutshell. Again, if you're still in love with the Canis and you're playing on the PS4 as well, that's where you want to go to actually play around with it. And with that, let's move on to our second topic this week. And that second topic is kind of a little bit about Cold Tier, kind of a little bit about the virtual reality training room, and some complaints that I'm seeing in game, and it's affecting me as well. So that's why I wanted to actually talk about this one. So somebody asked specifically on Reddit, why can't we be queued onto Cold Tier instead of the virtual reality training room when all the continents are full? And like I said, this one's affecting me a lot as well, even with membership, because there are usually only one or two continents open at any given time, and there's almost always an alert going on one of them, and then it's tough to get on that particular continent or the other one. A lot of times during prime time, every continent I try to get on is full, so I'm kind of stuck in VR waiting to get to the next continent. And if it's affecting me with membership, it's affecting everybody who's trying to play the game itself. And it does kind of suck to be trapped in the VR room waiting to get to the next continent. I know the person who created this Reddit post says they go in, they don't have membership, they wait a little while, and if it's going to take forever to get on continent, they log out and go play something else. And that is not something that the devs at Daybreak Games want people saying within the game itself. Now, with membership, it usually only takes a minute or two, and I'm off out of the VR room and onto a continent and playing. But I can certainly imagine a free-to-play player who does not have membership, just wants to get in and kill other Planet Mans, can certainly be unhappy with something like this and could easily go off and play another game, like Destiny 2 is a prime example. There are no restrictions for getting onto any of the planets within Destiny 2 and hopping out and playing and doing whatever the heck you want. So I could certainly understand if I was in this person's shoes that if I'm stuck in VR, it's going to be a 8-10 minute wait. I'm going to go and do something different. So Their suggestion of unlocking Cold Tier is a great idea. I mean, unlock Cold Tier, unlock Nexus, add that to the game, give us something. But Rel did respond to this post, and that's why I wanted to take a minute to talk about it this week. And he says, not Cold Tier. So don't expect them to unlock Cold Tier at any time in the near future to get people out of the VR training room. He did say, but we're working on a system that allows players to make use of an off-continent with more lenient pop restrictions. Less lattice lines to condense combat areas, and no ability to trigger meltdown until that continent becomes more full with population. So that's something I want to talk about because it's been mentioned by the devs before that this is something that they want to do within the game itself. I went back through my shows and couldn't find when they talked about it, so this is all going to be done from memory, and I apologize to the devs if I get any of this wrong. But the goal would be to unlock another continent when there is huge population queues on any of the two existing continents or one continent that is unlocked and full. That would allow specific lattice lanes. So if you just think the warp gates would be open and maybe just a single lane of bases to the center of the map would be the only inbounds area that you could actually play in. Everything else would be considered out of bounds and you would not be able to fight in them. And what this would do is it would condense all the fights into possibly one or two bases within the game itself, or more importantly, within the continent itself, and allow people to get out of the VR training room. I mean, the VR training room as the destination point for me is kind of annoying. I hate going in there. So hopefully this will be one of the things that they're working on early in 2018. Because let's be honest, I mean, I've said it multiple times in this topic itself that being stuck in the VR training room does kind of suck. And I can only imagine how bad it would be for someone who does not have membership at this point in the game. So again, hopefully they're working on something sooner rather than later to get this done and put into the game itself. It'll be a good idea because if anything, just to get players out of VR and stop logging out like this particular person said they're want to do when sitting and waiting too long. And obviously it's also going to expand the amount of territory you can fight over as more people log into the continent. I would imagine the population locks will pretty much be turned off on it. So as more and more people get onto the continent itself, it's going to unlock more and more and more until ultimately the entire continent is unlocked. And then, bam, you can have alerts happen on it and stuff like that. I'm sure it's a very tough system to put in place, not easy to design, develop, and implement. But again, hopefully that's something that they're working on for early 2018 because, again, you don't want people stuck in VR and logging out because they can't get in and play Planetside 2. And with that, let's move on to our next topic this week. So third topic this week is about the stealth changes and the Valkyrie itself. I was approached by Shadow Insignis. He asked if I could bring up this particular topic on the show itself this week, and he's not the first person to ask me to do something like that. I mean, a couple weeks ago, the Community Montage Project approached me and asked me to do something like that. If there's something that you are passionate about or feel that there's not enough eyes on and you want me to spend some time and talk about it, feel free to send me something on Reddit, send me an email, leave me a voicemail, anything like that. If I have space on the show, I'll happily talk about some of these things, especially if they're something that could be beneficial for the community and things like that. Like the Community Montage Project was a big one, and stuff like that. So the basic gist of Shadow Insignis' post is that vehicle stealth on aircraft no longer completely blocks engagement radar, and instead is providing a rank-based reduction to the effective range. For ESFs, their engagement radar is built in automatically. It's something free that they get. It's an optional upgrade on Skyguards. So if the inbuilt engagement radar has a 600-meter range, the reductions for regular aircraft are going to max out at 400 meters, meaning max strength of stealth and ESF will see your ESF, Liberator, or Galaxy on their HUD at 200 meters. The Valkyrie gets an additional 50 meters reduction. So at max rank, a Valkyrie will be seen by an ESF at 150 meters. So what Shadow Insidious wants to bring to everybody's attention is that these changes are most likely going to cause a major reevaluation shakeup of the air game in general. And he feels that it's going to be especially hard hitting for the Valkyrie itself. And the devs acknowledge this because originally they were going to be the same ranges as everybody else, but they gave them an extra 50 meters concession after the community complained about it. So he's wondering what people's opinions are going forward, and wants people to log in and play around with them and then make an opinion on it. My opinion, because I'm sure everybody wants to know what it is, because as they say, our opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and they usually stink. My opinion is, first I got to tell you how I use the Valkyrie. I use the Valkyrie as a troop transport, and then ditch it as soon as we get to our location. I do not keep the Valkyrie up. I do not engage other vehicles with the Valkyrie. I do not do anything like that. It is simply a troop transport to get inside for infantry play for myself and also the majority of my outfit. There's one player I play with, Otto, and he always pulls a Valk and keeps the Valk up, flies it around, constantly getting people to respawn on it, redrop, things like that. He's kind of the exception to the rule within Bax and Joke and Joku. So I'm talking about my personal experience, not so much his experience, is that it's a grab it, it's cheap, get it to the point, drop people off, and then eject and crash that thing and get myself onto the point itself. So honestly, the reductions don't mean a heck of a lot for me as a player. So giving that extra 50 meters, I feel is probably acceptable for the Valkyrie itself. I mean, at any time, if I get jumped on by a couple ESFs, I'm dead in the Valkyrie anyways. So for my particular playstyle, it doesn't mean a heck of a lot to me. So I recommend those of you who actually have a differing opinion on this to get in and post on his post, which I'll include a link to in this week's show notes. Feel free to add any comments or things to that regarding your thoughts on it. But Shadow Insidious, there's my thoughts particularly on it. And I'll keep following that post to see where everything goes, and maybe if there's any other dev changes on it, I can say it's because of you. But with that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic for this week's show. And that final topic is kind of about Daybreak Games' future, because it was kind of released, and it wasn't released by Daybreak Games. This is by something I found. There was a Reddit post about it, and it's on a website called Resetera. I don't really know what it is. I've never been on this site before, but one of the members posted that Daybreak Games is making 2 new games in the future. They're both going to be online RPGs. They're both going to be based on the Unreal Engine 4. One of them is going to be an online RPG. One of them is going to be an online first-person or third-person shooter. They've announced that one of them is going to be based on a popular old class RPG, and the other is going to be based on a hugely popular global IP. And ultimately, these will be released on all 3 platforms. So PC, Xbox, PS4. So with that, there's a lot of speculation as to exactly what they're going to be releasing. And I think everyone is pretty much assuming that the old class RPG is going to be another EverQuest. So maybe there's a possibility that EverQuest is coming. EverQuest Next, which they completely scrapped and dropped, might be back on the drawing board. No one clearly knows. Many suggestions on the other popular global IP. I mean, if it's going to be an FPS or third-person shooter, a lot of people are saying Star Wars. Are we talking Star Wars Galaxies 2 making its way to the game itself? And a lot of this is based off of some new positions or things that people are looking for for the game, for Daybreak Games itself. Some new job positions that have been posted, and a lot of these look like they're out of the Austin, Texas location. Like here's one for a combat designer, and they're looking for somebody to collaborate with a lead designer to design and document multiplayer RPG action-based systems, create NPCs, create gear and combat mechanics. They're looking for people with experience on PS4, Xbox One, and PC, and specifically that Unreal 4 engine system design experience. They're also looking for a narrative designer to create a narrative for an unannounced AAA title based on the popular old class IP. And again, they're looking for the senior game designer who's excited to work on a new unannounced AAA title based on a popular world-class IP. And this one, they're looking for someone with a familiarity of core mechanics for FPS and third-party shooter titles. And these are all based directly on the daybreakgames.com/career website. This is interesting. Let's just leave it at that. No information other than this, and other than them hiring people. Obviously, this could lead to nothing. Could they be talking about Planetside 3? I highly doubt it, because I don't know that Planetside is a hugely popular global IP. I mean, maybe it is, because I mean, it is a global game. I think the old class IP is probably EverQuest. That'll be interesting because I know a lot of people are unhappy that EverQuest Next kind of hit the wall and died. Certainly Star Wars Galaxies 2 would be huge for a lot of people. But I don't know that they're able to get licensing for that from Disney at this particular point, because obviously Disney is controlling the world right now when it comes to all movies and all things Star Wars and things like that. So curious what other people think of this, if there's anything that you think might be coming to the game or whatnot. I'll include a link to this post so you guys can go and read the job descriptions yourself. And hey, if you're looking to work for Daybreak Games on a new AAA title, tell them Derringer sent you. And with that, let's move to housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
All right, I did get a couple emails this week. First one from Tana Lauren, who just wrote, "Congratulations, Darren, you deserve it. Feel free to say hi to Biter on I'm sorry, BTYR. We call you guys Biter, I'm sorry. On Emerald TR. We run organized ops often there. Captain Gino is our CO. I'm so sorry is our XO. If anybody's looking for a TR outfit to play with who's welcoming and run a lot of stuff and usually has huge squads going at all times, go check out BTYR. That's Brothers of Tier, even though, like I said, we call them Biter. They do run organized ops all the time. There's always I'm going to keep calling you Biter, Tana Lauren, so I'm sorry. There's always a Biter squad up and running. I'm always fighting against Biter all the time. So again, if you're playing on Emerald, you're looking for a TR outfit that does a lot of stuff, Biter is definitely a good outfit, even though, like I said, we call him Biter. Next, I also got an email from Pipeline Audio who wrote, "Congrats on the Derringer. Now, please ask them to fix the auraxiumed trim with the new body items. I will do my best on that, Pipeline Audio." Again, thank you both for the email, and thanks again on congratulating me on the Derringer. But that's going to be it for this week's show, because I've got to wrap this stuff up and go finish my Christmas shopping. My family, for the most part, immediate family is easy to shop for. I mean, my wife, we don't exchange gifts, so that's an easy one. But my daughter, cake. My stepson, cake. My brother, easiest person to shop for in the world because he's basically me. His wife, easy to shop for. My niece, easy to shop for. It's when I start getting into the rest of my family, my mother and father, impossible to shop for. My aunts and uncles, I hate shopping for my aunts and uncles because they give me no ideas. Every year they give me no ideas. And when I give them thoughtful gifts, it's like trying to, I should put thumb screws on them to try and get a response on whether it's a good gift or not. So I've got to go do the dreaded Christmas shopping for the remainder of my family at this point today. But how can you get in touch with me or the show? always visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. Send me an email, instantactionshow@gmail.com. Call me, leave me a voicemail, 347-4VM-4PS2. Those numbers, 347-486-4772. Follow the show's Twitter at InstActPodcast. If you do follow the show's Twitter, you'll get an instant thank you because I do have that set up. And you can also follow my personal Twitter, which is at The Derringer. So in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, or specifically if you've enjoyed this Last Jedi spoiler-free show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.